Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I think you have to go to the topic fourth. You have to go to the topic the fourth state, or we. I think the topic fourth state.
Fourth state, sir. Fourth state, sir.
Yeah. The topic, the lesson, the states of consciousness. The topic, the fourth state. In the waking, dream, and deep sleep states of consciousness, you become the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper. All through your life as a waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper, you refer to yourself in the first person singular pronoun I. But you know that the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper are distinct and different from one another. Hence, these three unequal factors cannot be I. I is not the waker or dreamer or deep sleeper. I is apart from them, the self that holds the three personalities together, the pure consciousness, the fourth state known as Turiya. Turiya means fourth. Turiya is the state of reality, the supreme state of peace and bliss. Those who have reached that state in different periods of history have declared that to be the absolute state of fulfillment. The fourth state is proclaimed as the real state, your original self. You are unaware of your real self. The nature of your self is infinite peace and bliss. You have lost your original nature. You try to regain peace and bliss from the world. There is a constant pressure on you to gain more and more. You do not stop this pursuit until you reach your original state. Only a few rare souls have reached the state of self-realization, have ended the pursuit of happiness. They do not find the need to pursue it anymore. Absolutely fulfilled, they revel in the bliss of their own self. The pressure to gain more happiness ends when one reaches one's original state of infinite bliss. The pressure that a human being experiences to reach his original state is akin to that of an object goes through to regain its original state. A coil spring compressed exerts pressure until it reaches its full length. A sponge squeezed exerts pressure until it regains its original form. So it is with human beings. Every human being feels an inherent pressure, compulsion to seek more and more pleasure, joy, and happiness through the body, mind, and intellect. There seems no end to your physical, emotional, and intellectual demands. Your pursuit never ends. You do not rest content until you reach your original being, your supreme self. Only when you realize yourself within would you be free from the internal pressure. Reveling in the absolute bliss of your original state, there is no need to seek further peace or happiness. This is evidenced by all those who have attained the fourth state of self-realization. Now, till now what he is saying is, we know the three states, the waking, dream, and deep sleep states are known to us. The fourth state, there is the thing called the fourth state, is not known. It is told by the one who has reached there. It is told by the Shastras. Two sources to say that there is the fourth state. What are the two sources to tell us that there is the thing called Turiya, the fourth state? One is those who have reached that state tell us that there is the Turiya, the fourth state. The second one is we can come to a conclusion that there has to be a fourth state based on some analysis. Now here he is doing both. Based on some study and analysis, you can come to the conclusion that there is a thing called fourth state. Also, you can understand, also you need to understand that there is a fourth state because those who have reached there claim that there is the fourth state. So two factors to conclude that there is fourth. Waking, dream, and deep sleep, you go through. You don't need a Shastra to come and tell you this. You don't need any analysis to tell you that you are going through the waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. Do you? You don't need a scripture to come and tell you you are going through the three states of consciousness called waking, dream, and deep sleep because you know it. You know it by your own experience. This is the law. That which can be known through one source of knowledge, you don't need another source of knowledge to repeat the same thing. Again, I repeat, what you know through one source of knowledge, the other sources of knowledge need not repeat it because you already know it. Now, what can be known through direct experience, you don't need Shastra to come and tell you. Now, what you know through direct experience, you go through the three states, waking, dream, deep sleep. You know that by your own experience, you go through these three states called waking, dream, and deep sleep. Shastra is needed. Enlightened person is needed to come and tell us that there is the fourth state. You open your eyes, you see. You don't need a Shastra to come and tell you that with your eyes you see. For you know it. What is it that makes the eyes to see? You need a Shastra. You need to carefully understand the distinction. The eyes see. You don't need a Krishna, you don't need Bhagavad Gita, you don't need a Vedanta treatise, you don't need an enlightened person to come and tell you that the eyes see, the ears hear, the mind feels, the intellect thinks. Idallam solradhukku you don't need a Shastra because all this can be known through your own experience. That which can be known through your own experience, you don't need some other proof to come and teach you that. Are you okay till now? There is the thing called the fourth state, Turiya. Is not known through your experience. Is not known through your experience. For you know only the three states, the waking, dream, and deep sleep. How do you know that there is a thing called the fourth state? First proof is the enlightened master comes and says there is the fourth state. That is the proof. But we can't trust that person, no sir. How can we just go by? How can we go by one person saying maybe Maybe he's blabbering. Maybe he's slightly off. Or maybe he's drunk. Or maybe he's hallucinating that there is a thing called fourth state. These are the doubts. For which the answer is, it is not just one man that is saying. Different human beings at different periods of time in history, in different geographical locations, have said the same thing. Therefore, you get a conviction. It has to be correct. If it is just one person, it is fair. But it is not just one person. At different periods of time in history, different human beings in different geographical locations where they all didn't have a conference and then they decided and declared that there is the fourth state. Clear? Or assembly la vakila. They didn't have a conference, they didn't have an assembly, and then they declared that we all belong to the fourth. They didn't say that. Different periods of time, different geographical locations, persons have said it. Therefore, it has to be correct. The basis on which we agree that there is a thing called the fourth state. Adukku ivlo explanation. They say that there is a thing called fourth state. And not only they say that there is a thing called fourth state, once you reach that state, an absolute fulfillment happens. An absolute fulfillment happens. An absolute peace, an absolute fulfillment, an absolute happiness happens. Number 3, they say there is no internal pressure anymore. There is no internal pressure in us anymore. Are you able to follow the 3 factors? First is their own experience. Second is, they say we have reached an absolute state of peace and bliss and contentment. The third factor they say is there is no more internal pressure within us. Now, conversely, if you look at it, in every human being, there is a pressure. In every human being, it doesn't matter where you are, what gender you are, how educated or uneducated, rich or poor, beautiful or ugly, there is a pressure inside. There is a pressure. Pressure implies that you are not in your natural state. Any pressure implies that you are not in your natural state, or anything in its natural state, there is no pleasure. Are you able to follow? A restless monkey is a happy monkey. You know that, no? Suddenly, if you find a monkey meditating, it is really worrisome, because you can't say the monkey turned into a sadhu. I found one monkey which is meditating. There is something wrong with that monkey. For a monkey is natural being restless. A human mind is not natural being restless. Are you able to follow? A human mind is not natural in sorrow, in pain, in misery. If misery or sorrow is the natural state, happiness will become a problem for you. You know that? If misery is your natural state, happiness will become a problem. That is why you will say, no, no, no. Just as now you are saying, I don't want happy. Just as you are now, you say, I don't want sorrow. I want happiness. If sorrow is a natural state, what will you say? Happiness I don't want. I want sorrow. Are you able to follow? So anything in its natural state is happy, peaceful, blissful. It's not stressed. As long as the object or being doesn't get back to their natural original state, there will be a pressure. There will be a pressure. What is that original state? If you reach, the pressure goes out completely, forever. The enlightened person says, once you reach Turiya, it happens. Are you able to follow? One of the very convincing, very, very logical, convincing explanations. If insecurity is your natural state, security will be agitating you. Since security is your natural state, insecurity is agitating you, and till you get to security, you will not remain peaceful. Are you able to follow? Assuming that if ignorance is your natural state, you will be happy being ignorant, and knowledge will become a problem. In fact, gaining knowledge will be a problem. Why to even gain knowledge? So, as long as you are not in your natural state, you will be stressed. Vedanta says all stress is an indication that you have to get back to your natural state. Vedanta says all stress is an indication that you have to get back to your natural state. Natural state povada varaikum, there will be a stress. It doesn't matter where you are, what you do, what you have, or what you don't have. What you have, what you don't have, where you are not, who is with you, who is not with you, there will be a pressure. Therefore, all stress, all pressure is an indication that you have moved away from your natural state. The enlightened person says, I have gone back to the natural state, therefore there is no more stress, no more pressure, no more stress. Remember this, a restless monkey is a happy monkey. Remember that, then you will remember everything. Yes, remember this. A restless monkey is a happy and peaceful monkey is a restless monkey. You make the monkey sit quiet, it gets very. It is, in fact, peace and quietude will make the monkey restless. Because the natural state of the monkey is restlessness. Similarly, what is the natural state of a human being? The natural state of a human being is to be peaceful. That state is called the fourth state, Turiya. The three ways in which you understand that there is this thing called the fourth state. In every in every human being, there is a search. What is the search? Being frustrated and suffocated where you are, until you get something, that state of peace doesn't come. There is this pressure in every human being. There is this pressure. What is the pressure? The pressure to seek pleasure. In every human being, he says, in every human being, there is a pressure to seek pleasure. And what is that pressure to seek pleasure? And how that pleasure must come to you? That pleasure must come in an unbroken form. The pleasure must come in an unbroken form. A unbroken bliss, a unbroken happiness is what you seek as pleasure. And that happens only when you reach the fourth state. You are seeking that already. Vedanta says you can get it when you reach the fourth state. Are you okay till now? You get it once you reach the fourth state. And on the fourth state irukundradhukku enna proof? Krishna says, I am telling you no. Jesus Christ says, I am telling you no. Ramana says, I am. All enlightened people say, it is existing because I am telling. And on what basis they say? The basis of them saying it is their own anubhava, their own experience. They have experienced it. They know it. Is it okay? For we are going to get into a very, very important piece of study. Before I enter into that, Subramaniam asks, Subramaniam is having something. Subramaniam.
Namaste, Guruji.
Cholungo. Yes.
In the last paragraph of last class,
yeah.
I just want to read the relevant portion.
Yeah.
I want to have enlightenment on that.
Yeah.
It's last but one para.
Yeah.
But the consciousness exists in the waking, dream, and deep sleep states.
Yes.
And beyond as well.
Yes, correct.
That is your supreme self appearing through the media of the gross, subtle, and causal bodies. Now,
yes.
This I am not able to understand. Through the media of gross, subtle, and causal bodies.
Yes.
And it says when all the three bodies drop off,
yes,
consciousness remains in its immaculate state. The consciousness exists in all periods of time.
Yes.
So, now,
yes.
Now the causal body,
yeah.
Can we say that we can also call it a deep sleep body?
The causal body is deep sleep. Yes.
Can we call it deep sleep body also?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if it is so, one has gross, subtle, and causal bodies.
Yes.
And am I right in thinking that causal body is existent because it produces subtle and gross bodies? And if so, we have known that if one dies, subtle body finds a new abode.
Yes.
So in that case, can we say that subtle body is soul? And in that case, what happens to causal body? What happens at that stage?
Yeah. Now, there are a few questions that Subramaniam has seeking clarification. The first thing is I'll explain the text. First thing I'll explain the text. In the text, the last but one paragraph of the previous topic, somewhere the 7th, 8th sentence starts with saying, but the consciousness exists in the waking, dream and deep sleep states and beyond as well. That is your supreme self appearing through the media of the gross, subtle and causal bodies. When all the three bodies drop off, the consciousness remains in its immaculate state. The consciousness exists in all periods of time. Now, because of the consciousness, being present in all the three states, we are able to be aware that we are going through these three states.
But in case of deep sleep, it's afterwards.
Yes. Yes. Even in deep sleep, the indriyas and the mind and intellect is that which closes down. Again, I repeat, in deep sleep, what is shutting down? Consciousness is not shutting down in deep sleep. What is shutting down in deep sleep? In deep sleep, the indriyas, the 10 senses, the mind, the intellect, the pluralistic world, all shuts down temporarily. When we say shuts down temporarily, what it means is you forget everything. You forget everything. You forget about the waking state. You forget about the dream state. You forget everything. In that sense, everything shuts down as it were. Are you able to follow till now, Subramaniam?
Yes. And at that stage, is it like a shavam?
In the deep sleep state, which is the causal body, both are synonymous. Deep sleep state and causal body is synonymous. Now, what is happening in the deep sleep state? We can only infer what is happening in the deep sleep state. There is the jiva present in a rudimentary form in the deep sleep state without the external manifestation of awareness, consciousness. What Mandukya calls as the Bahir Prajna doesn't have. The external consciousness they don't have. For there is nothing to be externally conscious of. Okay, to put it very simply, in the waking state and dream state, there is an external consciousness. What is external consciousness? You are aware of yourself and you are aware of me.
Yes.
That is external. Not only you are aware of yourself, you are also aware that there is a group of people sitting here. You are aware of yourself, you are aware of the group of people sitting here, and also you are aware that there are so many not sitting here.
Okay. Yes.
Are you able to follow? Awareness is about yourself. Awareness is about who is here. Awareness is about who is
not here. Not here.
So there is an awareness in regarding to an infinite factors in the waking state and dream state. In the causal body, in the deep sleep state, there is no subject to be conscious of oneself, neither is there an object to be conscious of externally. Therefore, we say the whole thing have gone back into unmanifest form. But the very fact that the person is reporting that I had a good sleep. The very fact that the person is reporting that I had a good sleep, we infer and say that a rudimentary part of you should have been existing there. A rudimentary part of you which is really not understandable. We can only infer. a rudimentary part of you should have been aware in the deep sleep, and it is that which is coming and saying, I had a
sound sleep.
I had a sound sleep, because it is carrying the memory of sound sleep. When we say a rudimentary form means what? It is carrying the memory of nothingness, no? To carry the memory of nothingness, something has to be present. It may look like playing with words, but you have to just stretch your thinking and understand. To report that there is nothing, something should have been present to report that there is nothing. Correct?
Yes.
நேத்திக்கு ராத்திரி ரோட்ல யாருமே இல்ல சார்.
ஆனந்தமா தூங்கினேன்.
Take the statement.
Yes.
நேத்திக்கு ராத்திரி ரோட்ல யாருமே இல்ல. Nobody was in the street last night. It's a wrong statement because you are there. You are present, reporting that there is nobody there. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
So the very fact that something is, the very fact that the person says there is nothing, something should have been there. Now, what is that something? We don't say it is Brahman. Huh? We don't say it is Brahman. We say it is also, that is the part of avidya, ignorance. What is it? We don't say Brahman is reporting that, because Brahman doesn't report. Brahman reports to whom? Krishna. Brahman reports to what? Therefore, it is not Brahman that is saying I had a good sleep. The gross body and then subtle body is also not there to,
yes,
to report. Then who is reporting? Who is carrying the memory?
The avidya.
Some name we give. What is that name? The ignorance in the pure form exists. Avidya. Something we give. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
Therefore, to be aware of nothing, awareness is required. Then only you can be conscious of nothing. In the waking state, you are conscious of something. In the dream state also, you are conscious of something. In the deep sleep state also, you are conscious of something. What is that something that you are conscious of in the deep sleep? Nothing. That nothing cannot be quantified. That nothing cannot be qualified. What is that nothing? We really don't know how to describe that nothing in words. That's where in the Atma Bodha he says, no causal body as avidya, anadi, anirvachaniya, anirvachya, he says. No causal body as anadi, avidya, anirvachya. Meaning, something is there, it is bringing the memory and reporting it. Therefore, for all practical purposes, to make it not that confusing, we conclude and say, there has to be a rudimentary subtle body present. There has to be a rudimentary subtle body present. What is that rudimentary subtle body means? Mind, just one fiber of mind is present. How can you say one fiber of mind that is present? Because memory. Because there is a memory, and memory belongs to the mind, subtle body. Are you okay now? At first I gave the explanation from a philosophical angle. Avidya, anirvachya, and all that. Now I am giving the explanation from a practical angle. What is the practical angle? I know that I went through deep sleep because I'm having the memory of it. Now, memory belongs to which body? Memory belongs to the mind, which is the subtle body. But the only difference in deep sleep state is the mind forgets everything in relation to the waking state and dream state. It will not remember anything else. A fiber of the mind is present in the deep sleep state, carrying the memory to the waking state and says, I had a
deep sleep.
I had a deep
Sleep.
I had a deep sleep. Therefore, for all practical purposes now, who is reporting or
And
what is
subconscious
reporting?
mind? Sorry.
So, for all practical purposes, what is reporting that there is a deep sleep state? The rudimentary subtle body. It makes it that much easier to understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Chalo.
After the death of the person,
yes.
After the death of the person,
yes.
What happens? Because we have understood about subtle body.
Yes.
But causal body.
Yeah, that I will come separate because there is no connection between the two.
Okay. Okay.
There is no connection between the two. That I will explain as a separate, because that is a separate concept altogether.
Okay. Right.
That is a separate concept altogether. Now, are you okay till now?
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'll take up the death. What is death? What is death? The subtle body leaving one gross body and taking up
new board.
Another gross body.
Yes.
What is death? The subtle body leaving one gross body and taking up another gross body is what we call as the death and birth.
Birth.
Now, when we say the subtle body moves, what is implied here is the causal body is also moving. So when we say subtle body, it is the combination of the subtle body and the causal body that is moving from one gross body to another gross body. It is implied there. Again, I repeat. The subtle body and causal body combined leaves one gross body and takes up another gross body is what we call as the death of the body and birth of
another person.
So the movement is both the gross and the
subtle.
Nature's blessing in such a way that every day we die for a few hours and we wake up. Every day we die for a few hours and wake up. Thank God we are waking up in the same body. Subramaniam, all our are waking up in the same body.
72.
72. 72, Pata terla. 72 years waking up in the same body. I'm not saying it will happen. Definitely it's going to happen anyway, whether I say it or not. One day you will sleep in this body and wake up in
some other body.
And nature's blessing, thank God, because it is a new body, all the memories associated with the previous body gets
erased,
wiped out. All the memories associated with the previous body gets
completely wiped out.
And thank God it gets.
It happens.
Thank God it happens. It happen, life will be too
a bit confusion.
Yeah, chaotic, because we can never say who's the father and who's the son. We can never say who's the mother and who's the daughter. It will be one total chaotic thing. Are you able to follow?
Yes.
Therefore, the movement from one gross body to another gross body is the combined subtle body and the causal body.
Causal body.
It's a combination of both. Seriya?
Okay.
Memory is associated with the body. Memory is associated with the body. What is the memory? The memory of name, skill, relationships. All these are memories associated with the
body.
With the body.
But is it gross body?
Yes, gross body.
So
it's gross body.
Subtle body doesn't carry it.
No. Subtle body doesn't carry the memory associated with the gross body. It doesn't carry the memory. What it carries? It carries the imprints it carries. It carries the imprints. The imprints in the form of ragadvesha, the imprints in the form of digested Vedantic knowledge, the imprints in the form of karma pala. What it carries is the imprints. It doesn't carry any memory, but it carries the imprints. What is the imprint? The imprints in the form of ragadvesha. Nowadays, they have this thing, no? When they are making the house in one tile, the boss and the real boss, the wife, both will make an imprint of their hand, leg, whatever they மூஞ்சி கூட வச்சுக்கலாம். What difference does it? They make the imprint. The imprint. Now, what the subtle body carries with it when it leaves the body, it doesn't carry any memory with it, but it carries the imprints of likes and dislikes in the form of vasanas, digested Vedantic knowledge, the digested wisdom, the knowledge of life and living. The third thing is the karma pala. The karma pala in the form of the resultant force. Subtle body carries only this. When we say the subtle body, what it means is the gross body, the gross body goes along with it. Is it okay, Subramaniam? I think he's lost. He's frozen. Yeah. Okay, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll further go through this as well as Atma Bodha also the same point arose.
Yes, same point arose. Yes, correct.
I'll go through that and try to further extend my knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Prasad. In Garuda Purana, they say that memories will be up to 40 days of the birth. Is that the case? I really do not know. I really don't know whether it will stay for 40 days or what or not. But the Purana, the Purana says that in the hierarchy of literature, whatever the Purana says, we take it with a pinch of salt. In the hierarchy of literature, whatever the Purana says, we take it with a pinch of salt we take, because Puranas are Puranas are Amar Chitrakatha of spirituality.
Okay, sir.
வேற எப்படி சொல்றதுன்னு தெரியல. Puranas are Amar Chitrakathas of spirituality. They are not wrong. They are not teaching anything wrong. But there is so much of katha in it. So much of katha means so much of story.
Salt and pepper.
Story. Story na enna artham? Story na? What is the other word for story? Story is a very refined way of saying imagination.
Imagination.
It's an imagination. So, lot of imagination goes with it. That is why, depending on the family thing, two things they do. On the nowadays, I don't know what they are doing, because they do it according to their conveniences nowadays. Traditionally, the 9th night, they study the relevant portion from Kathopanishad, where he says there is no such thing called death. Or they study Garuda Purana. And nowadays, nobody studies Kathopanishad. They all study only Garuda Purana. When my father passed away also, they said, we should read Garuda Purana. I said, Garuda Purana I will not read, we will read Kathopanishad, I said. Why read Garuda? It's not an inferior text. It's not a wrong text. We take it with a pinch of salt, because in the hierarchy of literature, Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa, Kavya, the hierarchy. Shruti, the highest textbooks. Then comes the Smriti. Then comes the Puranas. Then comes the Itihasa. And then comes the Kavya. Kavya is Raghuvamsa, like Kalidasa's Kavya. Every literature has its own Kavya. Shakespeare's எல்லாம் Kavyas. Just ஒரு historical character எடுத்துட்டு they'll make a story, அவ்வளவுதான். That is a Kavya. Itihasa, as it happened. Itihasa means as it happened. History in Beraduk, as it happened. Ramayana, Mahabharata, we call as Itihasa, as it happened. Higher than that is Purana. Purana takes up a concept of philosophy. And what is the concept of philosophy the Purana talks about? It will talk about creation. It will talk about pralaya. It will talk about lot of Dharma Shastra, not stories. Not so much of a story. That is a Purana. Then comes Smriti. Smriti means the code of conduct. Smriti na constitution vechukonga. Smriti means constitution. Code of conduct na edo right and wrong, good and bad anchuko. It is a Smriti means a constitution. And Smritis keeps changing. Just as constitution keeps amendment after amendment after amendment. இல்லையா? 180வது அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கும் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அவங்க போட்டதுக்கும் 180வது அமெண்ட்மெண்ட்டுக்கும் கனெக்ஷனே இருக்காது. பட் ஸ்டில் இட் இஸ் த சேம். ஸோ ஸ்மிருதிஸ் ஆர் தி கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் which is subject to change. Shruti, which is the subject matter of what we study. Shruti, which is the subject matter of what we study, is the authoritative source. How it is authoritative source, I am going to discuss that. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Vardhadu. I was waiting for this portion to come. It is coming. How Shruti is an independent authority. We are going to discuss how Shruti is an independent authority of knowledge. Is it okay, Prasad? Yeah. Venkatachalam. Is Turiya accessed only by the self-realized? Yes. Only the self-realized have access to Turiya. Is the state a permanent state for the self-realized? Yes. The Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. Having reached there, none returns back. It's a permanent state. It's a permanent state. In the Upanishads also, they say, once you get there, there is no going back. Yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. So that state is a permanent state for the self-realized.
But while they are living in the world,
yeah,
they are in the state of Turiya.
Yes.
They live in the world with that approach.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
Though they have experienced the Turiya, they live like any one of us. That is why it is extremely difficult to identify who is the person in Turiya state. Supposing if we say the person in Turiya state will suddenly develop a third hand, it becomes easy to identify.
Correct.
Supposing if we say that he will have a second nose, it becomes easy to identify that these are the fellows who have gotten to Turiya. It is very difficult to identify who has gotten to the Turiya state, because we will never know unless they declare it. One. Number two, they will declare it only to a qualified student. They will not declare it to any. It's not like a newspaper reporter comes and asks, are you self-realized? He will say, what do you know about self-realization? As though you are asking, are you self-realized? Are you able to follow? To a qualified student, they declare that they have reached that state. Arjuna has surrendered to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, to Arjuna, Krishna declared that Kshetrajnam chapimam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. I am the Kshetrajna amongst the Kshetras, meaning I am the self-realized one. I am the pure consciousness. He declares to Arjuna because he is qualified to hear that statement. So, they are in that permanent state, very difficult to identify, because when they live through the equipments because of the prarabdha vasana, they look like
ordinary, normal human beings.
Like any one of us. If you have some sensitivity in you, some search in you, some seeking in you, you will be able to connect. If you have some seeking, if you are seeking something, if you have some search, some thirst, you will know that this man is
in the state of Turiya or self-realized.
This is the man that I am looking for. Like Shankaracharya found.
Yes.
Like Shankaracharya found his Guru, Govinda Bhagavad Pada. Yeah. Somewhere in the Narmada banks, in the other part of the country, he was living in a cave. He wasn't a very popular world-known teacher. He was just but Shankaracharya knew him. He was able to identify because of his search and thirst. It is not it is not that you become a follower and then you say he is a self-realized person. All the followers of Ramana says Ramana Maharshi is a self-realized. No clue to what? No clue to what? Neither self-realization nor Ramana Maharshi. Because people say it and they also keep keep saying it. But then it is difficult to know the one who is in Turiya.
Self-will, yes.
Unless you have a very deep thirst and search, you can never know who it is. To put it very simply, the appreciation of a stroke in cricket is dependent upon how knowledgeable you are in cricket, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Chuma 4-6 adchale, it is not cricket, no? Today it has become like that. It doesn't really matter. Overthrow la 4 pona kuda people clap. Yeah, overthrow la 4 pona kadala, why do you have to clap? It is just yeah. Now the subtlety can be appreciated only if you have that subtlety in you. Are you able to follow? Those spiritual seekers who have the subtlety in them would be able to identify these people. To them, the person says, I am in the state of Turiya. Don't worry. I will take you and show you that. To that person, he says, don't worry. Ma Shuchaha. The Bhagavad Gita, he says, Ma Shuchaha. Don't worry. I will take you, Arjuna. Ram Tirtha says, I will take you shoulder to shoulder. Is it okay?
Yes, but we have very good example of King Janaka at one end.
Yes.
And at the same time, we have people like Ramakrishna and others. So it shows that you can be in normal transactions of the world, but can still be in the state of Turiya.
In fact, you are perfectly correct. They would be like any transaction, the normal transactions of life in the normal transactions of life as in any one of us. Exactly like any one of us. And yet, you know, something is so qualitatively different. You know that there is something so qualitatively different. And I'm very glad that you brought the example of Janaka. Shankaracharya, Buddha, and Sulirindha Kuda, it wouldn't have been that.
It won't matter, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't that because they are slightly different. When I say slightly different, we would want to appreciate a Shankaracharya Buddha from a distance, but I would never want to become a Shankaracharya or a Buddha. Now, Janaka is something very different. In fact, Vedanta is Janaka and others. All the Vedantic people were men of action living in the world. The rishis living a family life, living with their wife and children and all that. And yet something in them is uniquely different. Is it okay, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. The important aspect. I will briefly define it today. Next week, I will take it up in detail. What is, we said, the knowledge of the fourth state, the authority for it is the Shastra. We said the sources of knowledge. The sources of knowledge for the fourth state is the Shastra, Vedanta, Veda. Now, a very, very important analysis and study it comes. Now, you need to be very clear on this. 4 things. Better is your understanding of these 4, stronger is your intellect. The strength of your intellect is directly dependent upon how much you have understood these four, precisely, clearly. The four sources of knowledge is Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Agama. Agama, also known as Shabda. Agama, also known as Shabda. The four sources of knowledge. That which you know anything is through these four sources. In fact, in the four extra rendu irukku. There are six. There are six. Arthapatti and Anupalabdhi. But again, it is also a kind of inference. Therefore, we bring all that into the inference itself. Anumanam itself. Even though there are specifically two more. What are the two more? Arthapatti and Anupalabdhi. First thing is Pratyaksha. The human thinking grows. The human thinking evolves based on the sources of knowledge. The first one is Pratyaksha, direct perception by sense contact. Again, I repeat. Pratyaksha means direct perception by, carefully remember, direct perception by sense contact. The Jnana Indriyas have to contact and prove it. Then only it is called direct perception. Meaning, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. These are the five sources of Pratyaksha. Nastika philosophy is entirely based on Pratyaksha. Nasti, meaning that which cannot be seen by any, that which cannot be directly perceived by the senses, do not exist. Summa sir, Ningla edukku bayamurthre law of karma nu onnu irukku. Why are you unnecessarily scaring people that there is a thing called the law of karma and you will be punished for that? You will go to hell, you will go to this. Why are you saying? Have you seen? Are you able to follow? Why are you unnecessarily talking about law of karma? Why are you reincarnation? Yaar paathirukkranga reincarnation? Nobody has. Therefore, that up to God. Are you able to follow? That which cannot be perceived by the senses do not exist. Human thinking revolves based on the testimony given by the senses. Are you able to follow now? What is Pratyaksha? The testimony, the assurance given by the senses becomes the only source of knowledge. This is called Pratyaksha. Then comes Anumana. Anumanam is an inference based on a previous experience. Anumanam is an inference based on a previous experience. I'm giving the classic Upanishadic example where you see smoke and you say fire, because in your past experiences where there is smoke, there is fire. Therefore, you infer. Now you are seeing only a smoke, but you have not seen fire. Using your intellect, you refer back to the previous experiences and then say what you are seeing now is fire, though the eyes is seeing only smoke. This is called inference. Where did the fellow see that? In the kitchen he would have seen. Yeah. In the kitchen, in the past, when they gave these examples, இப்போல்லாம் கிச்சன்ல எல்லாம் ஸ்மோக் கிடையாது இல்லையா? ஸ்மோக்கே இல்லாததுக்கே சிம்னி வைக்கிறோம் இப்போ. அப்போ அந்த காலத்துல என்ன வச்சாங்களோ தெரியல இல்லையா? Where there is no smoke, now we have chimney, and the noise of the chimney is more painful than the smoke. இல்லையா? நான் கேட்பேன், இங்கேயும் இருக்குது, எங்க வீட்டுல கூட ஒரு சிம்னி இப்படி இருக்குது, எதுக்கு ஸ்மோக் ஊதுனா? So in the past, in the kitchen, they would have seen the smoke. Also, they would have seen in the yajna. When they were doing yajnas, they would have seen that. What? Smoke and fire. So based on the experiences, they infer. What is the inference? Either it could be your experience or somebody's experience, but you infer it based on a previous experience. So for Anumanam, two things are needed. What? A past experience and recollecting that past experience and understanding something in the present is called Anumanam. Next week I'll go into the we'll go into the details next week. But today I just wanted to start it. இல்லனா waking, dream, deep sleep எல்லாம் வந்துனே இருக்கும் இல்லையா? அதெல்லாம் இப்போ இது வந்ததுனால அதெல்லாம் மறந்து போயிடும். So something more interesting we can talk. The third one is Upamana. Upamana is an example, a comparison. You want to say something and you do not know how to communicate it. So you take something else and transfer it here. This is called Upamana. Like, for example, you want to say, this boy is a brave boy. You have to communicate. Thus, he is a brave boy. That's what you want to communicate. Now, how to communicate that he is a brave boy? You say, he is like a lion. He is like a lion. He is like a lion. Will he roar? Yeah. He's like a lion. We can't ask, will he roar? Will he have manes? We can't ask all that. What is communicated here? In bravery, this boy is like a lion. For lion is, you want to say this man is a strong person. How do you say? You say lion. Why? Because, see, when lion walks in, all animals will quietly move away. See, sometimes in a combat, a wild bison can kill a lion. A pack of hyenas can kill a lion. That doesn't make a lion a weak animal. Are you able to follow? So if you want to say this boy is brave, you compare that boy to a lion. This is called comparison. So one way of knowing is pratyaksha. Another way of knowing is upamana. Another way of knowing is anumanam. What we are studying is the fourth one, agama, tradition, also known as shabda. the verbal testimony of the Shastras. It is said in the Shastras, therefore it is. It is said in the Shastras, therefore it is. For why you believe in the Shastras is because the Shastra uses the technique of Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana wherever it is needed. Therefore, they just don't make statements. You rely on the authority of the Shastra because the Shastra, wherever necessary, it uses the Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana and all that. Therefore, the four sources of knowledge. The dharma, the law of karma, theory of reincarnation, Maya, Brahman, God, which is the most important factor of life. All this is taught to us only through the Vedas, the Vedanta. For no other subject talks about these. No other subject talks about this. What do they do not talk about? They do not talk about theory of reincarnation. They do not talk about reincarnation. They do not talk about law of karma. They do not talk about the dharma. These are all the minor topics of the Vedanta. These are the minor topics of Vedanta. What is the essence? What is it that they are trying to communicate? Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. Who says that? The Shastra, the tradition. Please understand, tradition doesn't mean old age-old practice. See, the English word tradition has this thing of edo tradition na romanala vara practice than tradition. Here, when we say agama tradition, it should not be understood in that sense. That is why I am using the other word shabda. The testimony of senses, the testimony of inference, the testimony of upamana. The fourth one is the testimony of the Vedas. Testimony of the Vedas. You gain knowledge through these four sources. Direct perception, thinking is not that much involved. In inference and upamana, thinking is involved predominantly. Though data comes from the sensory perceptions. Even for inference, for comparison, the data still comes from the sensory perceptions. But that by itself doesn't teach you. If sensory perception by itself can teach you, then why do you need inference? Why do you need upamanam? Are you able to follow? If sensory perception itself can teach, you don't need nerupla kai vecha sudun solradhukku, you don't need inference. You don't need upamana. Eduthu vechale porum. You will no. So that which one source of knowledge can teach, you don't need other sources. Are you able to follow? Where what one source can teach, it is redundant, useless to bring in the other sources. That's already therinjachache. You know, today is 26th of August. If I tell you that, what will you say? You know, today is 26th of August 2020. You will say, sir, we know it already. That which you know already, you don't need somebody to teach you. Are you able to follow? So if you have to be taught, it should not be known through one source. That which cannot be known through one source, you need the other source. What pratyaksha, anumana, upamana cannot teach, agama teaches. Agama teaches. And this agama is something which is, all our study is agama based. Shabda, Vedanta, Veda. But it makes use of pratyaksha, anumana, upamana a lot. It makes use of pratyaksha, anumana, upamana a lot. Wherever it is applicable, they use it. Wherever the limitation of pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, they say it is limited also. Are you able to follow? Vedas uses pratyaksha, Vedas uses the other three. But then again the Veda says those three are limited when it comes to some aspects. Since those three cannot reach there, you have to rely on me, Vedas say. Since those three cannot come here, you have no choice but to rely on me. No, sir, I will not rely on. Sonnala, I will not listen. I need proof. I need proof. Inference is not a proof. Anumana is not a proof. Direct pratyaksha alone is a proof. And that proof will not give you any knowledge at all. Because what you see is not what it is. What you see is not what it is. Na? Though pratyaksha teaches you, pratyaksha really doesn't teach you. Yeah, angada. ஏதாவது ஒன்னு சொல்லுங்க சார் கரெக்டா பிரத்யக்ஷா வச்சுக்கிட்டு அப்படியே பிரத்யக்ஷா மட்டும் இருந்தா போறோம்னா life is very simple and straightforward if pratyaksha alone is the source of knowledge. If pratyaksha alone is the source of knowledge, education system vanda, schools, colleges, university, teachers, textbook allam vanda, because you will know you will know it. But the truth is pratyaksha is not the source of, it is not the only source of knowledge. Of the sources, it is one. So what Vedanta says, where pratyaksha is needed, take it. Where anumana is needed, take it. Where upamana is needed, take it. But what I am talking, these three have no access to. Which is Vedas. Are you okay? Don't worry. Even if you are not okay, or even if you are okay, at the I will confuse you all so much that at the end of it you will say, sir, adukku waking dream deep sleep better. The pratyaksha anumana upamana solra explanation that waking dream deep sleep engalukku easy ah purinjirudhu. Very, very important aspect in developing the thinking. Seriya? With this, we conclude for today, and I will continue with the 4 means to gain knowledge next week. Hari Om.